Well, hello and welcome to this final part of what is a special preview for the 2018 Star Sports English Greyhound Derby, and we're going to open up the floor and discuss all things Towcester, all things the Greyhound Derby, and we're going to start off with the track itself. I'm going to start with Kevin Hutton, of course, the panel from Star Sports, Martin Chapman, leading trainer Kevin Hutton, Irish journalist Ian Fortune. Now, Kevin, Towcester came into being, what, 2014? Where are we at to with the track?
With the track, it's not for every dog. You know, we've seen that certainly in last year's derby, that not every dog takes to it. But listen, it is what it is now. I think they've improved the banking a little bit from last year, so hopefully that will help a few to get round okay. But venue-wise, it's absolutely outstanding, isn't it? There's nothing like it in this country. Makes for a wonderful derby venue, and I think it will just get better and better as we go as well.
Okay. Now we're sitting in Lord Hesketh's box, no less, Martin. So I think we should say nice things, but to be honest, I think there's plenty of nice things to say about Towcester, and it's very much, I think, still evolving. And Kevin talks about the track itself, and I think over the coming years, I think there will be various tweaks going on.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they've tried to make a tweak of the bends as well. Everyone says Towcester's a big, wide, sweeping bends, and it's almost too wide. You know, the track was really made for 8-dog racing, which they've stopped now for it seems for a while. And you know, dogs do go up the bend, and some of them don't get seen again. And as Kevin said, it's just not for everybody the track. So maybe to make the track slightly narrower. People say where the derby start is on the outside, and dogs get funnelled in towards the rails, and they could have a sort of moving out off the rails there a little bit. And the track, yeah, it could have made a little bit narrower, but it's a perfectly safe, wide, you know, running track, which is perfect. You see very little trouble here in any racing, whether it be grady racing with a shorter run to the bend, or the derby start with the longer runs to the corner. So, yeah, you know, nowhere's, in an ideal world, nowhere's perfect. Towcester started from scratch. People said, well, they could have made a perfect track from scratch, but is anybody perfect in the world? Well, no, I'm certainly not. So, I mean, you know, nobody's perfect, and no greyhound track's perfect, despite people's ideas to try and make one.
What's the Irish perception of Towcester?
Well, it's not an Irish type track, there's no question, in terms of the short straights, big, long, sweeping corners. But like Kevin said, it suits some dogs, it doesn't suit others. Like one dog in particular last year, we were talking about earlier on, Sonic, you know, one of Ireland's top greyhounds. He came over here and he looked like an A2 grader compared to the dog he is at home and the dog he proved to be afterwards. But yet, Tyra Shea, who would perhaps struggle to win a derby, likes the Shelbourne Park, there's no question he had the pace, but the real fast dogs were going to get out in front and they were going to stay there. Whereas here, things happen in races. I think the common misconception last year before the derby was, oh, you had to have a fast starter on the inside. Whereas last year, I think we learned that if a dog is willing to pass on the outside, a strong running dog willing to pass on the outside, I think you're on a bit of a winner there. You know what I mean? Because you're generally getting a clear enough run on the outside, and if you have the pace to get there, the 500 metres it's a fair test of a greyhound. I think in terms of punters, I think there'll be less complaints this year because they know what to expect. And I think that's half the problem. Last year, people weren't fully expecting or fully knowing what to expect. And when their dog was beaten, they'd be giving out with this and giving out with that. Whereas this year, you know what type of dog to look out for and what to look out for. And I think as a punter, that's what you want. You just know what is to be expected. It's like Cheltenham. You don't bet an Aintree type horse at Cheltenham, you bet a Cheltenham type horse. And that's what you do at Towcester. You pick a dog that'll be suited to the place, and hopefully you pick the right ones.
But we're still talking, what, maybe 200 entries, something like that. It's still a bookie's benefit, isn't it, Martin?
Well, we had a result last year in the final. That was the only good thing about it. The results up to the final last year weren't too great. We could have been in on Derby Farmer night. We were doing our absolutes on the pitch down there up to when Senna Veggie won the 6 Ben race. And we had a very large win on that race, and we were still losing. So that was the idea. Of course, the final was the icing on the cake. People were saying, like, oh, you know, what a result from Ben sponsoring the final. We had Tom Power working for us here last year. You know, Tom Jenkins goes to me every bloody favourite one at White City, like that. You know, seeing a 28-1 winner. So yeah, I mean, it was a great result on the final night to get the result.
You were struggling coming up to the final night, even though Ben arrived in a helicopter on successive Saturdays?
I think that was for show, really, wasn't it, as well? I think that was Matt Chapman also coming for the ride to be a bit of a show pony. So yeah, I'll come my 20-year-old 4x4 still. So I mean, like, there was no luxury for me, believe me, to get early and set it all up. But
speaking of the derby final, at the third bend, were you thinking you were going to have a result?
The third bend, yeah, when Higher Butt just gave on the inside. Ben was all with Higher Butt all the way through. To be a good friend of mine said to me, about 5 dogs going in the final. The one dog he couldn't couldn't have as high a butt. And Ben was on his blogs. Ben would be the best ground judge, to be fair to him, and he just kept putting up higher butt. And I'm just trying to say, how could it win, Ben? You know, every possible way. So yeah, I mean, thank God at the third corner. But I still thought Tara Shea was going to win going down the far side. I mean, looking back in hindsight, seeing how strong his deep missile was, giving the competition away there. But it was yeah, there was one result to get, definitely. So that was it was a tremendous night last year from in many facets. The result was academic, really. I mean, obviously it was good to get a result in the final, but the whole night was brilliant.
Now we're talking about Ben Keith, of course, the boss of Star Sports and a great supporter of the game, and the website now is up and running, and you report, you know, plenty of interest at this stage of proceedings.
A lot more than last year, definitely. Yeah, I mean, last year it was fairly quiet. Obviously, we were telephone based only last year, so this year we got the website starsports.bet, which is, you know, they're up and running now with all the anti-post price on it. We'll have plenty of heat prices all the way. I think Ian will be smiling there, thinking there'll be a few Ricks there for some of the Irish dogs. But, you know, all the other markets, derivatives, the top bitch, we had the fastest sectional last year. The winner's time, the fastest time in the Derby, was very popular last year. They're all there. We've had a few dogs we've laid already for decent money. Forest West actually is the worst. I've had 3 trainers now, I think, in 6 races. Started with Kevin, went to the Keighley's, then it's with John Lamb now. That's been the best back dog of all of ours, and we've got that for absolute fortunes at the moment, but he's not showing a great deal at the moment. The other dog we've got as a big loser is Calico Brandy, not Calico Brandy you mentioned earlier on. Got that as a fair size loser as well, but I'm sure as the Derby opens up there'll be dogs back for large sums everywhere across, you know, both online now and here in the betting ring on the night.
When the entries are confirmed, that's when you really
exactly. That's when you really want to go for it. Yeah. So I think the entry closes at the 24th, and they close, or I think it's a couple of whatever it is, the entries, and then the draw obviously will be on the Sunday before the first round. So
Ian, can we expect plenty of Irish visitors?
Yeah, not as many as last year, I would imagine, due to the calendar situation and just the fact that the dogs really aren't there. There's only a certain amount of dogs that are probably worth coming over.
In terms of punters, in terms of those coming
I'd say
you'll
have plenty of Irish coming over. You know, I know there's quite a team building up for the Tuesday night anyway. The quarter-final night is always a great night. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a big Irish contingent coming across the water, but there'll be plenty of interest in it. And like Martin said, they'll be waiting for the heats to be priced up every Monday morning and Tuesday morning.
I'm going to say, as an aside, Cheltenham have got it off to a T. It's in the diaries of Irish men and Irish women, sort of pretty much on the Saturday after the festival. How can we ensure that we have that same sort of pilgrimage every single year? Because I know the Brits travel over to Shelbourne Park every year.
The Shelbourne Park thing it's always the second. Well, it was always the 2nd September in second Sunday or Saturday in September. It changed in recent years, but it's generally the same date. And I think the sooner you can get the date in the book, the better it is for the Irish. Because nobody wants to be booking a flight, you know, a couple of months in advance. But, you know, if you think you can book a flight from, you know, I'm not going to mention their names, but you get a flight for the price of a cup of tea a year earlier, you'll be booking it. Do you know what I mean? If you don't go, you don't go. But if it's booked, you'll go, should we go and we'll have a bit of crack? That's what we're all about,
So that's a fair shout, Kevin, isn't it? Yeah, anything else that we can do to kind of make this occasion even bigger and better than it was last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lord Hesketh has got a lot of plans going forward over the next 2, 3 and 4 years. You know, even making the Derby into a proper festival, 2-3 day festival, you know, with music concerts and entertainment, and, you know, really going the whole hog. You know, not just to get the ground people in, but a wider audience, start getting a wider audience into ground racing as well. So there's some big plans here over the next few years, and hopefully if some of it comes off, it could be one hell of an event.
It is. Yeah, it's worth a mention that whatever about the track, the venue itself can't be faulted. It's just made for a big occasion like a Derby. And we mentioned earlier about the month earlier, it's going to be that darker, that bit earlier, which is great. Because when the dog track is dark, it just makes that big difference. And
you do miss that. I know if you drive the back way sometimes at night, and it's like a spaceship when you come some of the country lanes on the thing that sort of lurks out little fancy the countryside. It's a venue more than than a stadium. Yeah,
I think we're very lucky in that respect. Just bringing it back to the race itself, can a bitch win the English Derby? We've got to go back to Farlow Verdict and your Sarah's Bunnies and 1 or 2 close calls. I think we were talking off camera about Cleaner's Lady, Pearl's Girl, but in Ireland,
Yeah,
it's almost a regular occurrence.
Well, it hasn't been done in a few years, but it's it's very rare that a bitch doesn't get to the very latter stages of the Derby. I can't see a reason why not, especially if you get a bitch in form. Kevin will tell you, like once a bitch starts to hit form, like you can rattle off 7 or 8 races with them, and they just keep getting better and better and better. And who's to say that something like IOU Penalty or one of the top English bitches won't fly? Like the Wahida bitch has great early speed, and when if she gets to the front, she's very hard to pick up. Who's to say that
Bull Run Button could be the type to keep on qualifying?
Yeah, I just wonder, in terms of early speed, but yeah, again, draw dependent, but something like that, there's no question they can tiptoe through the early rounds perhaps and just start coming into their own, and that's what it's all about, I'm
going to throw it open, and I'll start this off. Have we not mentioned any other greyhound that could be a potential winner? I'm just going to put one out there. I'm not even too sure if it's going to be entered. I've seen 1 or 2 of its trials, but Forrest Con, I thought, for me, a very good young dog, litter brother of Dorota's Wildcat, got to the semi-finals last year. If he could be a bit Vic like Dorota's Vic, he might be coming forward. Again, a big price. Anything that you guys can mention that we haven't maybe mentioned?
I'm not going to mention 1 or 2 in front of the bookmaker, but there's no question the likes of those types of dogs can get involved. Every year we see it. Like this year, this time last year, sitting at this very spot, like I didn't know who Bruiser Bullet was. Do you know what I mean? Like and all of a sudden, he's the top dog in England effectively for the last short while, and who's to say that another dog will appear like that? Like you mentioned Ninja Fortune earlier on, like he could be this year's Bruiser Bullet for all we know. This sort of situation. I know in Ireland for years and years, not so much in recent times because of Shelburne Park, everything seems to eventually come to Shelburne Park to have a look at before the Derby. But there was a stage in Shelburne where you could be 2 weeks before the Derby, you mightn't have seen the dog in Dublin. You know what I mean? The eventual winner, and that was a common theme. And certainly this year, the way the Kirby's finishing so late, who's to say these 2 or 3 dogs coming from the Kirby Memorial won't just take to the place and take off,
Well, we mentioned, of course, Dorota's Wildcat. We've mentioned Magical Bow. So come on then, Kevin. Are you only having 2 entries, or are there going to be a few others? Or?
No, I think we'll probably have a team of 8, all being well, with some lovely outsiders.
Give us some names.
Well, Lofty's very own Lost One Dare.
Of course.
Will be entered.
Wow.
Very, very fast dog on his day. Probably.
Stretching 500, I think, to be honest.
500 will be enough for him.
That was an extraordinary sprint success.
It was a good win in the sprint. To win a sprint off the back, and he was brave as a lion at the bend. I know it's only a D1. I think Kevin's got him in the Trainers Championship sprint team here on Saturday night. Purely by default, I think. You've got no sprinters at all, have you really? So it's a case of we pluck him out and stick him in. But no, he's been a great dog. I mean, for me, to be honest, he wasn't expensive buy at all out of Galway. I know Kev loves dogs that come out of Galway, and he's been a great dog. A little bit injury prone, but he's a. And
while we've got Ian here, are we allowed to say how his name came about, or will we end up in the court?
No, it was quite fair. I think his kennel name is Desi. I think we named him after Desi Scarhill, the Irish racing commentator, who doesn't tend to pick out a few fallers sometimes, and will tend to go Lost One Dare. So that's how he.
It's not D-A-R-E, it's Dare.
That's how he's named.
Don't be picking on Desi just because he's a Man U man.
I went to Ireland last week. Everyone calls him an absolute legend, Desi Scarhill. He's a legend in his own lifetime.
One of the great gentlemen.
Right, now each person is going to be asked to have a charity bet, £100 or £50 each way if you prefer. So I would presume that's just us.
This is free, not me.
Right, so we better start with Kevin then. So I assume it's going to go on one of yours, or is it going to go on something else?
No, I will stick very close to home.
Yep.
Dorota's Wildcat for me. We'll go. The prices will go all in £100 a win.
Fair enough.
Dorota's Wildcat, £100 to win. Ian,
stick with Droopy's Davy. €100 to win.
Okay.
£100 to win. Better again.
Get more. Just about.
And despite the fact that you guys just don't think he'll stay, I'm going £50 each way on King Elvis. I'm hoping that he's going to be out in front and hopefully just stays there. If we couldn't get King Turbo in for 1 or 2 reasons, then I'm going to go with King Elvis maybe as my charity bet. So just to sort of wrap up, Towcester very much now the home of the English Greyhound Derby.
Yeah, I can't see him moving, certainly in the foreseeable future. Once Lord Hesketh and his team are fully behind it, I think the venue can't be bettered in terms of what they can offer. The space, the crowd they can facilitate, and basically the enthusiasm they seem to be approaching it with. Obviously the track can be adjusted, but the track is what it is, and people know what they're taking on. You enter your dog, you know what to expect. So, you know, the track will become less of an issue as the Derby stays here, and I'm sure, as I said, they'll be doing adjustments over the next year or two, and who knows what might happen. But yeah, in terms of a venue, like, it's just it's brilliant. It's fantastic.
And that first prize of £175,000, Kevin, is a sufficient carrot to be dangled.
It certainly is, yes. A wonderful prize, again put up by Ben and Star Sports, and yes, if we could pinch that this summer, we'd be having a nice holiday somewhere, that's for sure. Yes.
And how are you going to pay for that, Marty?
I've no idea. Trying to get a few more results we did last year, to be honest, but I'm sure the boss will find some way to get it paid and sorted out. But no, it's been a great sponsorship, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was going to say, the company massively behind
it. This year, definitely, fully behind it, and it's a great exposure, you know, in a sport which doesn't get a lot of mainstream coverage, admittedly ground racing, but in its own small world, it's certainly put us out there with a lot of mainstream exposure, and yeah, virtually all of it positive.
In fairness, 175 grand, that's only Ben sort of dining out.
I was going to say,
every month, is it?
Every night, yeah. Someone said to me the other day about it, he was at Aintree, why is he not 18 stone? I said, apparently he only has a very small breakfast and has a 2-mile run every day and never eats lunch, so there we go, yeah. He's not found Deliveroo yet, unfortunately, or anything like that.
That's the secret, is it?
Yeah,
right,
cook
okay,
at home, but yeah.
I think it's just his travelling expenses as well, with those helicopters. Look forward to seeing those this year. Now, if you want to join the party, you can do, because courtesy of Towcester and our sponsors Star Sports, we have a competition for you. And the question is very, very hard. The question is, who won last year's Star Sports English Greyhound Derby? Do you know? If you do, please send an email to info@starsportsbet.co.uk and put perhaps Greyhound's Towcester Derby competition in the strap line. That's info@starsportsbet.co.uk for 2 tickets for the Derby final, which is here at Towcester on Saturday, June the 2nd. The question once again, it's a tough one. Who won last year's Derby?